All right. So tonight, guys, hello. I'm very excited. I'm going to sound silly because this is weird, but I have Sarah Dexter here from Sarah Dexter Designs.
Hello.
Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and let you do like a little bit of introduction of yourself. Tell
Sure.
everybody who you are, where you are, what you got.
Sure. I'll try not to start too far back. So I'm Sarah Dexter. I'm from Fairbanks, Alaska. That's where I grew up. Out of high school, I went to school to be a rad tech. So I got my X-ray and then continued on to my MRI. So I worked at my local community hospital for a decade or so before taking an opportunity to make a little bit of a life change and to pursue an education in fashion design. So sort of, took this idea of something I really enjoyed. I was really fortunate to have an opportunity to maybe try something else. Went to New York, got a bachelor's degree in fashion design from the Fashion Institute of Technology. And from there, moved back home. COVID, changed a little bit of things for everybody. So moving back home was the best idea. Moved back home, started doing some PRN a little bit back at the hospital while I sort of figured out what it looked like to be a fashion designer in Fairbanks, which for those who aren't very familiar with Fairbanks, doesn't really have that sort of industry. Right, which we can talk about why that's actually a really good thing and has been a really good thing for me. And then, but I stopped with the PRN, went full in, and also started a master's degree in fine arts at the
Awesome.
university.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that. What
yeah.
university?
University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Oh my goodness. All right, let me stop you right there.
Sure.
So we go back, Sarah and I'm going to guess 2018. I came
It
to
was
Fairbanks,
before
maybe.
that.
No, it was before that, huh?
Yeah, it was so I left 2016 and you were there. So I
Okay.
think you came up as a traveler before you came back again to full time,
I
right?
did. I did. So I came as a traveler. Sarah was the lead, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And we were crossing paths because she was like, hey, I'm making a move and I'm considering doing fashion. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know you did that. But Sarah, I'm going to give you a little background for what I met. So I'll go into Fairbanks, Alaska, ice cold and very resourceful people. So Sarah explained to me about how she used to dry cabin, how she used to go to the bathroom with bells on her shoes because of bears. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean for me? So I stayed in my unit for 3 months. I did not leave because I was afraid of bears.
Mm-hmm. You're the
So
healthy bears.
so, so Sarah is this Alaska, she's an Alaska woman. She is resourceful. She loves Alaska. And when I mean Alaska, I mean the interior. This is all out northern lights, animals, rugged, snow up to your knees, loving life kind of thing. And I'm like, wow, okay. So, and not only that, there's a culture there, there's a community there, there's people who have been there their whole life, their families have been there. And Sarah seems to have embraced that, and she's there now with her business, and that's what I'm going to lead into. So why back in Fairbanks?
So sure. So part of it was circumstance, right? I'm living in New York, doing school, which is the right move for education, right? Because as we know, like with Fairbanks, options are limited. You're very isolated. This hospital we worked at, right, was the only hospital for what,
Yes.
hundreds of miles. Uh, so of course, COVID happens. And New York is wonderful, and all of this shutdown, I'm not, absolutely needed to happen. But when, it's very expensive to live in the city.
Yes.
And if you're getting the experience for a time, it's worth it to pay for the experience. But if all you see is the inside of a studio apartment with no end in sight and you're
Yes.
remote, you
Yes.
might as well go home and not
And
go.
if I remember, I feel like you
Yeah.
always were coming back to Fairbanks. I feel like you were always going to do that.
Yeah, it was always, this is the thing that's, where to do it, where to get this education, and then figure out what that looks like to come home.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Now, Sarah, so I get there, I'm walking to work like I do sometimes. I'm in the snow, and Sarah's like, "Hey, I'm going to do silks later. Do you want to come by?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to come by. What the heck is silks?" So on this episode, Sarah, I'm going to post this picture of you teaching me in this silks thing.
yes. I love
Right. So I have a picture of of me doing that. But how about silk? Do you still do silks?
I do. Not to the same capacity. I'm getting older, so I'm trying to
Sure.
be more delicate with my body, but
Sure.
um I do really love it. And
Okay. Okay. Good.
the person that owns the gym that we opened that gym together, she's grown it so much, and such a huge air for such a small remote place. I actually have a lot of aerial performers here now.
Yeah. Yeah. It was growing then, it seemed like. So you guys were already at that point of taking it to the next level. I know you guys were traveling out of state, maybe
Mhm.
to Vegas or wherever those opportunities were. Now, let me go into this real quick. How did you like New York? How were you received there? And for what I've seen on your website, it looks like you blew it out the park with some of your concepts. Take me there.
Yeah, New York was fantastic. I loved it. I think I was really nervous. I always lived in Fairbanks, so I get this impression that it's going to be very different. But I think I really could see how people are people, wherever you go. So I
Yes.
really felt really comfortable, and people were really nice. Everything, anywhere you go, the culture is a little different. You just kind of adjust to it. But I thought
Yeah,
it
I
was,
love that. I love that. I mean, you're 100% right. I love what I'm
yeah.
glad you were received like that. I'm glad you see it like that. I totally love that. I agree with you. And cultures are different, but yeah, I'm trying to paint this picture of you being this tough, rugged person. So you're going to make it and figure it out wherever you go.
Mhm. I'm gonna walk on the street. I'm gonna look like I know where I'm going, even though I don't know where I'm going. There aren't any bears, so I'm good. I'm gonna survive in New
If you
York.
can make it in Alaska, you can make it in New York City. I'm
Seriously.
glad you liked. So how long were you in New York? How many years?
2 years. And then I
Wow.
lived there before shutting down, and then I did the last year of school remotely.
Awesome. Awesome.
From
So I
here.
looked at some of your collection from maybe a couple years back.
Mhm.
My coworkers are where I'm at now. They love some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw this year's collection, and I was blown away. That's why I'm so excited. I'm like, wait a second, I see MRAs, I see body parts. Take me there, Sarah. Take me there.
Yeah.
What's happening?
I don't know if you've been today, but I updated some of my more fine artwork that I'm using MRI images for.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
actual image, which I mean, people in the artwork wouldn't really know that things kind of looks like a body part to them, but it's funny that in imagery, those who know images, right?
Yes.
Of the full story. But it absolutely comes through in your work. And I've actually had this conversation in school about, making images and the idea that of images having a truth, but it isn't always what you think. And then I
Uh,
think sometimes people will look at like an MRI, or they'll maybe MRI image or some, medical image to reveal everything. When we know, if you work with these images, that it might not show everything. It's like
right.
it's still there's an interpreter, right?
Right.
That
Right.
we have someone that is interpreting it. And it's the same with any kind of image you make, if it's a painting or if it's, something abstract, or, there's still an element of interpretation.
Yes.
Um, so
So
there's a lot of translation, I think. And on top of that, I think particularly people who work with three-dimensional images,
yes.
it really helps with spatial awareness in art.
Yes. So yeah, this I'm sorry, my camera's taking a
No,
break,
you're
but the lithograph, am I pronouncing it right?
lithograph. Uh-huh.
Lithograph, right. So this is art. I knew you talked about clothes and fashion, but you are an artist, obviously. Your performance, your work with in MRI in a sense, and your clothing.
Yeah.
Definitely an expression of yourself.
Yes.
How long have you been an artist? How long have you been doing the clothes artist fashion thing?
I think clothing and art and I mean, that's something that was always an interest, right? And I think when you're young and you're choosing, you're going into the world and you're choosing what to do, I, like a lot of people, it was sort of like, I can't study art. That is insane. I need to support myself and pay for college. And, so you're like making these really, at the time, of course, they're really like smart decisions. So it was always something I was interested in. And I think I told myself, I'll just do it on the side, like I'll have my, 40-hour a week or plus job. And then I'll like do some of these, silly creative things on the back end. And then what I learned was that I didn't, like, I was tired,
Yeah,
and
tired. I can totally relate to that. So yeah, so your passion for what you do and what you want to do, regardless if it meets the need of financial stability, it just calls to us. It tells us, hey, be true to yourself, right?
it'll tell you when it's the time,
Yeah.
right? And it's really, if you listen to that, because I think there's so much fear. There's so much fear, and I was so terrified, and I had a spouse that was so supportive and it was like, you can do this now, like, because I can remember being like, I can't, a paying job, I'll never make this much money doing anything, like, you need to think in terms of this fear of like, what's going to happen if I make any less money, or something like that, that feels like you're giving up some of your stability. But
Sure.
you'll know when it's okay to at least try.
So you have the fear, you have a support group that encourages you, and obviously you have friends and family that believe in you as well.
Yeah.
So that's important. But yeah, how do you, what do you do when you're down? You're like, you know what, I'm really not sure. And how do you pull yourself out? Well, how do you get inspiration? How do you battle through the fear? I know you touched on it a little bit, but how do you personally address the fear?
That's community, I think.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons, so I was, back in Fairbanks before I got into the MFA, the Masters of Fine Arts program here at the university. I had a little, my studio here. I was making these collections, but all of the shows that I were doing were out of town,
Yeah.
right? There really aren't any fashion shows in Fairbanks, which that could lead us into this New York show or New Year's Eve show that I did. But so I was building some fashion community, but outside of my town that I live in.
Oh, I see.
So I felt really kind of alone. So when I would have those times where I'm making a collection and I'm like, what am I even doing? Like, is this crazy? Like, should I just stop? Is this worth it? Because it's a lot of work. And, not having that community to lean on locally. So this is when, like maybe, getting immersed in this fine art world that there's a lot of here, to have that system of people who understand that, like,
And there's people there that want to be this. They want, so you're kind of leading, you're starting, you're telling people it's okay to have fashion in our family community in Fairbanks, in your hometown.
Yeah.
So great, that's great. And fear hits us all. And I'm sorry, my camera, I'm still trying to figure it out, but fear hits us all. And I'm trying to do something similar. I want to teach golf. I want to be into more entrepreneurial spirit, but the fear, if I don't say yes, I want to try, or like you say, if you don't give it a shot, or I'm afraid to lose money, or I'm going to fail. We all fall down, and we all have to have community, like you're saying. I'm so glad you have. When I met you, you had a great group of friends, and I'm sure they're still there watching you grow, and that's awesome. I'm super happy and excited for you. Now, yeah, take me to the New Year's Eve. Can you hear me okay? Sorry.
Yeah. No, I can hear you.
The New Year's Eve bash. So you kind of hosted a venue with DJs, music, other artists. And I mean, yeah, take me there.
Yeah, it was really great. So this is the second year I did it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so like I said, there wasn't a really a fashion show, which and it's so crazy how small, even in a small community,
Yeah.
I've met so many other people who do fashion and are trying to do their own thing that wise here. But it took me so long to find it. And you'd think I would just know all the people, and I didn't. We kind of hide, right? We're in our studios working by ourselves and don't understand why we don't know anybody. And so I was like, well, okay, so I want to have this show. New Year's Eve seems like a great time. There's not a ton of events kind of going on, but most people like have the time and want to go out. Like, let's have a runway show. But I didn't want it to be just me. And at the time, I didn't know many fashion designers. So I brought in artists that I knew. I was like, well, let's walk art down the runway. Why not? Like, I'd walk a canvas. I'll walk a sculpture. Like, it's cool. Make it a whole show. So we had a gallery space where we kind of set up artwork, more gallery style, and some mannequins and things, right? Kind of like a gallery show. Had live music, the runway, the fashion and art runway show. Music all night. Snacks, drinks. This year, we really exploded the show. So we had a band, a DJ, a rapper, some drag king performers, and we had fire dancers at midnight.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really amazing.
Now, was it these are Fairbanks, Alaska people?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, a few people there. We had a few from Anchorage, I think, that happened to be in town from Anchorage that, kind of were looking at events and came. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I just started doing this, and I'm trying to, again, my entrepreneur friends and definitely however I see it. But I mean, when I looked a little bit around, I'm like, wow, Sarah is really doing something there. And it seems like you're leading the way and you're doing what you want to do. And I'm encouraging my friends to, they want to go to Alaska anyway. I'm like, hey, you got to stop in Fairbanks. You got to stop and check it out. It's a cool place, awesome people. And Sarah's there.
Yeah. No, and this is a really great thing for you to do, because I think when you want to thrive in something and you invite more people to like thrive in this thing with you, it just kind of grows exponentially, right? You can grow off of each other's energy, and it becomes something that builds that you can be a part of.
Right.
Rather than trying to like strong arm something by yourself.
Now, let me say, so this is obviously your passion. You've been an artist before you were an employee somewhere. This is something you like doing. So your passion for it. But tell me how, like you say, it's leading you to either pull other people along, give back to community. You have a real grounding feeling. So it's more than what we set out for it to be.
Yes, and I'm open to what that's going to be. Because I feel like some of the best ways, paths that I've gone in were paths I didn't know were there until they were just, sort of available in the moment.
Sure.
So I think being open, like I love fashion and I love clothing. I did not like the industry. I learned a lot about the industry that I didn't want to be a part of necessarily.
Yeah.
So being here then offered this kind of opportunity of like, well, don't worry, you actually can't work in the industry here. So there isn't that like, fear-led decision of like, well, maybe I'll just work industry, even though,
create your own industry. I'm big about that too.
Just like sometimes, when you don't have, when you're going to have to build something anyway, you might as well build it for something that you believe in.
Yeah.
And let it kind of grow in ways you didn't know. It doesn't have to be. I like being creative, and I like using, designing clothing and creating clothing, like the actual creation part of it. But that extends to so many other things.
Yes.
And they've been really open. The school's been really open to me using textiles in a sculptural way, or like using, kind of combining mediums. There's, so that's been.
Yeah, your website. I mean, I'm looking at these ideas and these clothes over the last few years that I can see, and it's like, wow, that's not what I was expecting. I'm like, wow, Sarah really has something going on here. You have pants, you have hats, you have jackets, you have vision, you have, wow. I'm like, wow, it's just like you've come so far, I guess, in a sense, and it's still growing for you. I'm so happy for you, proud of you, and can't wait to see what's next. So I kind of got a feel for where you are presently. So speaking of going next, where do you see in the near future for you and for Fairbanks?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's the question. Um, uh, Going into my final year and a half or so of school is really defining that out. Who I
Yeah,
am as a visual artist.
yeah,
If and I think what I see is to sort of have sort of categories. Like there's not maybe one, really strict thing that this is the only thing that I do, because this was the problem with my collections is I wanted to be really creative,
yeah,
and kind of go for it and just lean into the creativity. But that lends a little bit more towards art. It's a little less wearable, right? It's a little bit more like like a statement sort of thing.
yeah.
But I really love like knitwear in particular, which
Okay.
is essentially zero waste, right? You're using a yarn in one strand, right? And it's fully fashioned. So you're only using the material for the piece that you need. And technically you could de-knit it if you want and reclaim all of that
Is
material.
that right? Yeah. So I read a little bit about that. I'm like, wow. So that, I mean, the West Coast and a lot of the world is becoming like that. Where you have to be conscious of your carbon footprint or whatever.
And not only that, with knitwear, I have a lot of control over that fiber itself. So I can buy cones of yarn, like I'll just have yarn all the time. Cones of yarn that I know are a very nice, ethically sourced wool, like 100% wool. So I
Yes.
know from the beginning, from the source, what it is to an extent, right? There's always pockets of knowledge and things we that could be out of our sight, but I
Yes.
have more control over the material. So anyway, I'm wanting to also do something that is very easily wearable, but high quality, still made to order, right? So I don't have any inventory. It's like someone orders something in a color, in a size, right? And then I can just knit it for them. But then that will be more of like a capsule, right? Like
Yeah.
easy to wear, beautiful, timeless,
Yeah.
more minimal,
Yeah.
right? And so
Right.
if I can separate these things out a little bit, I get satisfied, right? Because I can
Yeah.
be like, no, crazy, put things all over it, I get to have that over here with like the fine art. And then on
Yeah.
the other side, I get to have this like what I really believe in. Well, I believe in both, but there's a world where both things can exist, right?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
the more wearable things that maybe I'm producing more of would be this really ethical and sustainable, um, yeah,
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that is the future for it. We want to watch what we do to the planet. We want to have something that we enjoy wearing. We want to feel comfortable. And you're doing it by hand and custom and yeah, and you're being creative. So hey, I can say, hey, can you do I like what you did with that rose shirt, but can you
Yeah,
do this and that for that's one of my favorite pieces. I really like that. That looks like it takes you some time to do.
a lot of time. Yeah. Hmm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very good. Well, Sarah, listen, any questions for me? I don't try not to hold your time up that much, but I knew I
Well,
had a lot of.
yeah. Yeah. Well, so you're in San Francisco. Are you still traveling?
So currently, yes, I am on a travel assignment and I'll be done in about another month. And then I'll, take some time off and probably find another assignment. But in the meantime, yeah, I want to get into some more entrepreneur stuff for myself, my family, and just spend more time doing stuff like this. So which, again, I'm hoping I can get some exposure for you, get some promotion for you, and introduce people to Fairbanks for sure, by way of Sarah, because it looks like you're really doing some awesome stuff, and your work is growing, and I'm sure people are making a lot of efforts to know more about you, even in Fairbanks, which is cool.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's been really, really great.
good.
Really filled up with love about it. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see it. Yes, but yes, I'm still working myself. I would like to transition to something a little bit more. But like you say, I think you were saying earlier about you know when it's right. So yeah, this feels right, and yeah, we'll get there. But Anything. Well, listen, I want to do this again. I want to see where we are in a few months or
Yeah.
whatever have you. I won't hold you up tonight. Looks like you're in your studio getting busy.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got another class I need to go to at 6 p.m.
Awesome. Now, yeah. So my computer, yeah. I'm sorry, my camera is just taking a dive here. But Sarah Dexter, everybody, again, she's in Fairbanks, Alaska. Check her out at Sarah
Dexter Design.
Sarah Dexter Designs. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Sarah Dexter Designs. She's on Instagram. She's on. You can search her on any search engine, and definitely you can visit her in Fairbanks, Alaska. Sarah, thank you so much.
All right.
We'll
Thank you,
see you
Daryl.
again soon. Say hi to everyone. Happy for you. Stay well.
Thank you. Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.